main part of this course, it's better to think of this course as being 8 weeks of practice in your life, in which you use this course, coming here on a Wednesday night, to guide that, to encourage you to engage with mindfulness in your life. Yeah. So it's not like you're going to come here and get topped up with mindfulness, and then you go off and you gradually spend it, and it kind of gets, and you come back and you get a kind of top up, you go back. It's not like that, I'm afraid. You need to do the mindfulness practice between times, and we're going to guide you in that, yeah? So just one or two more practical things just to pick up on what Sharada Siddhi said, and then I want to say something about mindfulness generally, at least about the Buddhist approach to mindfulness. There's lots of people are teaching mindfulness now, and I want to say something about the Buddhist approach to mindfulness. And then I want to talk about the particular area of mindfulness we're going to be concentrating on this following week. And then I'm going to give you some home practice, and I'm going to ask you to pair up with somebody or in a group of 3 and decide exactly what you're going to do this following week. And then next week you're going to come back to your home group at some point and say how you got on with that. Yeah? And that's what we'll be doing each week. We'll be setting you specific, we're saying here's the area, here's some specific ways of doing that. What do you want to do? What you're going to do? What can you do? What is realistic? What is doable? And then you're going to try and practice that during the week, and then you're going to come back and say how it went. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing. So yeah, just to encourage you a bit more, just to come to the course. Somebody on the little group I sat in on was saying they'd booked on this course because they've got a long commute home. They're tired after work. They've been wanting to come to the drop-in classes, but after work and with the long commute, you think, actually, tell you what, I'll go home. Yeah. So I thought that was actually a really good reason to book on a course. It just, you pay up some money, and that sort of encourages you to do what you know is in your own best interest, even if you don't want to do it. So over this 8 weeks, there'll be times where you don't want to come. Yeah. There'll frankly be times when I don't want to come. I only come from upstairs as well, so I commute in my slippers, so it's not a commute issue. So what you do is you notice you don't want to come. Sometimes upstairs in our community we say, I really don't want to teach tonight, and then you just go down and teach. Yeah? So come even if you don't want to come. Come if you want to come as well, I should have mentioned that. But if you don't want to come, even more so come, yeah? So just do the 8 weeks and then sort of evaluate it at the end of that, yeah? Don't try and evaluate it as you go along. How's it going? Is it working? Try and just park all that for a bit. Do 8 Wednesdays, and as Sharada Siddhi was saying, if you miss one, don't get into a big guilt trick and think, they'll think I'm really unmindful, blah. Just come back again, but just try and come. Come early so you can have a snooze. That's probably what you need, isn't it? Never mind, what the world needs now is a snooze, isn't it? Never mind your retreat in the Oxford, whatever it is. What the world needs now is a snooze. We should have a kind of snooze button that everybody, the whole world needs a snooze. So come and have a snooze. Think of this as like a large duvet room. You can have a snooze, and then you're much more likely to engage with the evening. Yeah. Yeah. And try and read the book. It's really, really good. And there's some gags. There's some gags. Okay. So those are the detailed bits. So I want to say a little bit about mindfulness. Try and find my way into saying something about mindfulness, and then we'll move on to this particular theme. So I don't know why, but what came to mind is when I was a teenager, I was in an amateur dramatic group, dramatic society. That's all. I come from a small town in Warwickshire, a little tiny small town, and one of the very few things that happened in the evening, everyone seemed to go to bed about 6. But one of the very few things that happened in the evening, we had this little amateur dramatic society, and I remember joining it. And I was in this play called The Lion in Winter. I can't remember if it's by now. And I played King John, but I don't need to go into that. But do you know when a line stays with you? And I must have been in this when I was about 17, and I'm a bit older now. And the line that stays with Eleanor of Aquitaine, one of the characters, it's about some king, I can't remember, one of them, Henry VIII, Henry VII, I don't remember. Anyway, Eleanor of Aquitaine says, I think this is word for word, but my ambition has grown thin with age, and all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. But my ambition has grown thin with age, and all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. And that line from the whole play, I can't remember which king it was, I can't remember very much about it, but I was just struck coming down tonight that line has stayed with me all this time. But my ambition has grown thin with age, and all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. Yeah. So that's for me, that actually says a lot about my own conception of mindfulness. That my ambition has grown thin with age, but all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. So the reason we practice mindfulness, at least the reason I practice mindfulness, in a way, everyone has different reasons for practicing mindfulness. And every reason is a good enough reason, whatever it is. A friend of mine came to practice mindfulness to improve his golf. That's fine, you know. Any reason to practice mindfulness is a good reason. I don't practice mindfulness to improve my golf. I wouldn't know even which end to hold, and have no ambitions. But I really like that phrase, but all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. And, well, that's just so true, isn't it, that all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. And my ambition has grown thin with age. The idea, you know, when you're very young, you think, well, I'm going to be in a rock group, I'm going to write a novel, I'm going to be the Prime Minister, I'm going to be a ballerina, I'm going to be a celebrity chef, I'm going to be Cleopatra. You know, you have all these sort of ideas, but as you get older, your ambition grows thin with age. You start to realise, to the degree to which you mature at all, and growing older doesn't mean you mature, I'm afraid you can grow older quite happily without maturing, but to the degree you mature at all, you start to realise that those ambitions, however valuable and however good in themselves, there's nothing wrong with ambition, that they're a bit thin and they grow thin with age. They seem to mean less and less. But all the mysteries are still as plump as ever. The mystery of your mind, the mystery of life, the mystery of time. So I've recently, for instance, just got back from a month on retreat, and 2 weeks of it I was on my own. The second 2 weeks, just on my own for the retreat. And what I tried to do was to explore the mysteries of myself, the mysteries of the world around me. The mystery of time, for instance. What is time? Everything, if you look at more deeply, is deeply mysterious. We don't need to go anywhere for mysteries. All the mysteries are still as plump as ever. So, for instance, one of the things I did, I didn't mean to say this, but we'll go this way. One of the things I did on my solitary was do walking meditation, where there's a little track between a few pine trees, and I just sort of walked on that little track twice a day. Lovely little track, just walking around and round. And one of the things I was trying to do was try to investigate the experience of walking. What is it? So when you're walking, you're never walking on the path in front of you, are you? Wherever you are in that walk, you're never in front of yourself. But also the walk isn't taking place behind you. There's no walking happening behind you, and there's no walking happening in front of you. So where exactly is the walking happening? It can't be happening in the moment, can it? Because walking is to do with motion, and motion must mean to do with going from one moment to another. So where is the walking happening? Now, when I talk about that here, now, on a Wednesday evening after you've had a probably busy day at work, you might think, it doesn't sound very mysterious to me, but it's like, what is this guy's problem? You like kind of walk? Hello? You go back home, so I went to this Buddhist place, like don't even know how to walk. It's like really weird. But when you're in the right space, for instance, when that reflection went deeper and deeper, because I still find this question of motion, it's very problematic. So for something to be somewhere, it has to be somewhere, absolutely somewhere, doesn't it? It can't be somewhere and somewhere else, can it? That's completely true. So if my leg is here, it can't be on the way to somewhere else. It always has to be somewhere. Yeah. It can't be somewhere else as well. It's actually the Greeks first discovered this. It's called Xenos Arrow, isn't it? An arrow that you shoot can't be somewhere and somewhere else. It can't be somewhere and somewhere else. It has to always be only one place in the whole universe. My leg has to be one place in the whole universe. It can't be in that place and on the way to another place. However much you break it down into nanoseconds, has to be in one place only. So actually, motion isn't possible. Or rather, what we experience as motion is deeply problematic and deeply mysterious. That's all very well for Xenos Arrow or for whatever philosophical approach you bring to that. But actually, if you're in a meditative state and if you're on retreat, you start to actually experience that. So at times, it felt like the world was rotating under me and I was just doing that. I was treading the earth and the earth was moving round underneath me. Or at times it felt very slightly as if everything was cooperating with walking, or even everything was walking. And then as it went deeper, I'd look up and the world would just be ravishingly beautiful. I was also reflecting on the nature of perception. I don't want to say I'm not using this philosophical, but there you go. So I was also reflecting on the nature of perception. It's really odd, isn't it? As soon as you close your eyes, there's nothing there. And you see things, and you think they're out there, but actually everything that you see is appearing in your eyes, upside down. Your brain then puts those two pictures up the right way around and puts them together into this thing that we call vision, which feels direct, doesn't it? When I look at you, I feel in direct contact with you. But I can't possibly be, because you're appearing upside down in two different pictures, being put together, which my brain is doing. That must be happening in time, but it's a time that's never available to us. So the very act of perception, of walking, this whole being human, the mystery of that is still as plump as ever. The Buddha explored those mysteries. The ancient Greeks explored those mysteries. So many people throughout time have been exploring those mysteries, and they're still as plump as ever. Yeah? And that's why I practice mindfulness, is to enter into those mysteries. I don't know about you, but I want a life. I want magic back, actually. That's what I want. I'm actually, frankly, not terribly interested in mindfulness as itself. I mean, I need to be, by golly, and all of us do. But what really interests me is magic and mystery and a life unfolding and enriching. Recently, I've got two little girls in my life, and I'm always in charge of the birthday parties, which, I tell you what, if you think international banking is stressful, try children's birthdays. They're 10, the oldest is 10, and we did pass a parcel. And it was really struck me that this is it, this is the last pass a parcel. They all knew that it was rigged. I hope this isn't going to shock anybody. They all knew that it was rigged. So somebody said, oh no, so-and-so hasn't got a gift yet, so we better stop with her. Someone would stop at somebody, she'd say, oh no, I've already got one. Whereas when she was 5, it was like miraculous. Good heavens, I didn't get one, and now I've got, they all know it's rigged. They all know exactly, it's the end of magic. I was really struck. Just 10, for many of us, it's the end of magic. We did a little, we always have a treasure hunt, which is me going around putting chocolate coins somewhere and then finding them. And one of the younger girls, the youngest, she was saying, oh, I I found all these. I went to this little path, and I found one after another. And I think, yeah, it's because I was walking in front of you, dropping one after another. She was just at the age where that was incredible. All the others know full well that that's what I'm doing, and actually will wait for me to put a chocolate coin down. I found one, It's the end. I was really struck. It's the end of magic, and if we're not careful, it's the end of magic. Complete, isn't it? That age closes, and we're just left into this world of things and matter and jobs and emails and responsibility. It's the end of magic. It's the end of mystery. What a tragedy that is. What an absolute tragedy that is, because the mysteries are still as plump as ever. What a Buddhist attitude to mindfulness is that you're practicing mindfulness to enter those mysteries, to recapture that magic, to start to reanimate the world with magic. Now, the way you reanimate the world is, first of all, to cultivate mindfulness. Yeah, that's how you reanimate the world. That's how you reanimate your mind. That's how you live a deeper life. It's the first thing you need to do, and there's lots more to do, but the first thing you need to do is cultivate mindfulness. Because usually the reason why our life, that the mysteries of life don't feel as plump as ever, is because we're not attending very deeply. Normally you walk to work and you hardly notice it. You certainly haven't got a chance to reflect on the nature of how can motion possibly be possible, and it can't be, so whatever's going on, try it on the way to work tomorrow. Usually the reason why the mysteries don't feel as plump as ever is because our mind is all over the shop. Our mind is a million miles away. Our mind is broken up into a kind of delta of distractions. So our mind being broken up like that means our energy is broken up like that. It's as if our energy is a great river, and that river is just broken up into little rivulet after rivulet until it just becomes lots of little muddy puddles and quite a lot of sludge. You can feel your energy just dribbling away. I mean, the usual thing that happens as you get older is you lose energy, don't you? If we're not careful, our life is a trajectory of a loss of energy, a loss of magic, a loss of mystery. The whole of Buddhism, the whole of mindfulness is to rediscover that energy, is to rediscover that magic, is to rediscover that mystery. But the trouble is, if you don't practice mindfulness, magic and mystery is just fantasy. And often what we do to get that magic back is just literally indulge in fantasy, either a fantasy film or a fantasy in our head. We live out of fantasy, not out of magic. Yeah? So the first thing we need to do is cultivate mindfulness. And the first aspect of mindfulness is what I'm calling day-to-day mindfulness. The Buddha didn't teach day-to-day mindfulness because it was a much, much simpler world. There wasn't any emails, there wasn't any cities. It was a very much simpler world. I think if the Buddha was teaching now, he'd really, really emphasize this practice of day-to-day mindfulness. So day-to-day mindfulness is really is basically just remembering, really. Remembering to set up your life in such a way as if that you don't have to think about it. You're trying to set your life up so it runs smoothly so that you can attend to the mysteries of life. Yeah? If we're not practicing day-to-day mindfulness, or we just get caught up in the small things of life, forgetting your Oyster card, getting to a meeting and not having the papers that you need, missing your train, whatever it is, all those itty-bitty things. Yeah? And what that does is it makes you focus on, actually, frankly, the unimportant things of life. Yeah? And you never get round to the plumpness of the mysteries because you're so harried by unmindfulness. You're so harried by the fact that you can never find anything in your room, or your desk at work has got piles of paper which you keep meaning to clear up, or you can never find anything in your bag. I used to have a friend of mine who used to smoke a lot, and much of her life is spent trying to find her lighter. The amount of time, a bit like she's just, I just getting a lighter cigarette. I think, okay, here we go. And she had these huge bags. She's always trying to find her lighter. when I was at art school, I was always trying to find my rubber. I'd be doing these drawings, and wherever I put it, I'd always lose my rubber. So day-to-day mindfulness is practicing those small things so that you can attend to the big things. Because by golly, there are huge things to attend to. Of course, the great thing to attend to is that you're going to die. Now, that's a bit of a gear change there. I actually don't always know what I'm going to say. But in a way, it's understandable, isn't it, to forget your keys. It's understandable to forget a document. It's understandable not to know where you save something on your computer. But to forget that you're going to die is really weird. But that's in our situation. We sort of know it, and we sort of don't know it. We forget it. And because we forget it, we forget that wasting all that time trying to find your lighter, getting really bad-tempered with your flatmate because they'd forgotten something only to discover that it was you. I remember in my community, I live in a community, I had this thing that I'd lost my whitewashing. This was a long time ago. And I remember saying, somebody in the community has got my whitewashing. And there's no, I have no. And I remember thinking, I bet he has. And every time he'd come in, I think, I'm sure he's got my... And I sort of think, you haven't got it. No. Anyway, about a few days later, I discovered I'd not put it in the washing machine, and it was still under my bed. But usually, when something goes wrong, you have a hit list of suspects, don't you? I can't remember if it's in this book. The kitchen sitters goes missing, and you have a hit list of suspects. So often our unmindfulness actually just gets passed around in irritation, doesn't it? It often can cause other people around you a lot of stress, just because you've forgotten this, just because once again you're late for that. It actually spreads a lot of suffering around, our little acts of unmindfulness, forgetting, etc. Now it's really small fry in a way, but it adds up to quite a lot. I think in the book I've written about just how many umbrellas are left on the tube and how many pairs of gloves are left on the tube and so forth. All these lost things, it adds up to a lot of your life. And we don't realise how much it adds up to. We don't realise how much our life is frittered away and harmed by stress and so on, just because of those small acts of unmindfulness. So never mind, all the areas of mindfulness that we're going to be exploring. Never mind for a moment the mysteries being as plump as ever. We need to actually get ourselves together in order to be able to live deeply, And then we might start to remember that one day we're going to die, so we need to really live this life as fully and richly as we can, because we may not get another. Nobody knows what happens when you die. So that's the area I want you to explore this week, is day-to-day mindfulness. So I want to suggest 3 particular things that you do. So one is sort of a reflection. So in this week coming up, if you get stressed and harassed, just see if you can remember to think, is there an issue here around day-to-day mindfulness? It can be quite difficult to see because it's very, very easy to blame other people. You can think that I'm a really laid-back kind of person, but life keeps stressing me out. You know what I mean? Or I'm a kind of laid-back kind of guy, but you keep stressing me out. Very often, we blame it on other people. I remember recently I went to a meeting, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm late for the meeting. The traffic on the motorway was much worse than I thought. And the person leading the meeting said, no, you didn't think about that in time, so you didn't leave enough time. We just put it aside. Actually, it was terribly humiliating, especially as I've written a book on mindfulness. But I'm getting used to that particular humiliation. I spent a lot of my life saying, yes, and I've written a book on mindfulness. I've become a joke. But in a kind of nice Buddhist-y way. But actually, not always that nice, actually. But you see how it is? Instead of saying, actually, I didn't leave early enough, we want to say there was a lot of traffic. Actually, it's truer to say I didn't leave early enough. So you're trying to find out, is there something I've done? Usually you sort of half know it. I didn't leave early enough. I tell you what, I got to that meeting and I was really stressed and harassed because I kept cycling through red lights on the way. And I always do that because I never leave enough time. And I always just about get away with it. There's always some people who are always just a bit late for that meeting. And they've always got some marvellous reason, excuse. But they always sort of do it, yeah? And sometimes that person is you, yeah? So see whether when you get stressed or harassed or that horrible feeling of I do not like my life, instead of thinking who's to blame for that, which is very easy to do, isn't it? Is there an element there to do with you and your day-to-day mindfulness? How have you contributed to get into that state? Yeah? It'll probably be at least partly to do with your lack of mindfulness. Yeah? So just flag that up. That's just a reflection. I'm not asking you at the moment to do anything about it even. Just think, isn't it interesting I'm always late for this meeting? And when I'm always late for this meeting, I do that big apology thing, and it takes me a while to settle in, and I feel vaguely guilty, and all sorts of things that come out of that. Because it's not just that we leave it that, it escalates from that, doesn't it? So that's one reflection I want you to do this week. Try and notice where it's an element of day-to-day mindfulness. Of course, do read the chapter on it, so you'll need to put time aside during the week to read the chapter because there's a lot more in the book. Then I'd like you to take 2 resolutions for this week. 2 resolutions, yeah? So I want you to try to come up with 2 things that will help you live your life more smoothly. Classic things are things that you've been putting off, for instance. Tidying your room, sorting out that drawer in the kitchen that's got bits of string in and, blah, blah, where you're constantly trying to find something in. Again, this is why they're linked, really. When you feel stressed, look at your environment, look at what you do, yeah? So try and come up with 2 resolutions that you could do this week which would help you run your life better. If you've got a meeting, then you don't usually print out those documents until the last moment and then your printer goes, can you print those documents out? If you need to go on a train journey, what do you do that fouls your life, that complicates and stresses your life? How could you make your life run more smoothly? Yeah? Don't get hyper whatever about this. Just, is there something you can do? And then see if you can do 2 things in this week. 2 things that help your life run more smoothly. And try and notice how it feels like when you do that. If you get to that meeting and actually you've got the documents and you're there on time and you can get yourself a cup of tea first, notice the difference than when you sort of do a forward roll from your bike and you're steaming and notice the difference. Don't at the moment get any judgment about it. Just notice the difference. Yeah. Notice the difference on yourself. See if you can notice the difference in other people. Yeah. If you, I don't know, you know what I mean. Try and think of 2 things you could do to help your life run more smoothly. And they need to be doable, and you need to be able to come back next week and say, I did those 2 things. Yeah? Or if you don't, you need to be able to come back and say, for some reason that was a much bigger deal than I realised, and I only did one of them, whatever it is. The third thing I'd like you to do is to reduce input this week. Yeah? This, I think, is possibly one of the greatest challenges in modern life, is to reduce input. We've never, in the history of humankind, been bombarded by so much input. We're chronically overstimulated. We're in the middle always of an information glut, an image glut. Everybody out there is trying to get your attention. I was reading a philosopher saying, a big question now, philosophically, is who owns your attention? Do you own it, or does the marketplace own your attention? If you don't own your attention, there's lots of people out there who want it. They want to sell you things. They want to tell you that they've bought a man bag. If you're on Facebook, they want to tweet something to you. They want to, get you to do something. If it's not your attention, there's a massive, an incredibly sophisticated marketplace out there that knows how to get your attention. People who liked this, I mean, always, might like this. I mean, it's so true. I mean, I need some of those things. You know, people have for pornography that stops you going onto porn site. I need one from Amazon, you know. But, you know, people who like this book, well, they're so accurate. You think, gosh, they really know me. You know, that is a good one. I would like to get that. So, see if you can own your attention. If you don't own your attention, somebody else will. And they'll own your attention, frankly, to manipulate your attention. Usually to get you to buy something, waste a bit of time, fritter your life away. We all know that. So difficult to wean ourselves off it. You know that time when you feel a bit like, I want something nice. So you think it's either a Kit Kat, or I'm just going to go scrolling through Facebook, looking at pictures of babies and snow and somebody's new man bag, you know, React, whatever it is. Now we all do it, but gosh, it's rubbish, isn't it? So much of it. You know, when did you last sit and read a novel all evening? Do you remember novels? They're like open things. And you had to kind of read all the words. You know, I don't know whether you remember that. Anyway, you had to kind of follow the story. You know, when did you last sit and listen to a piece of music? When did you last do nothing? You know, when did you get to bed on time? What studies show is that we're chronically sleep deprived. Most people, the first thing you could do to practice mindfulness is get more sleep. Yeah? The reason you don't get more sleep, the reason I don't get more sleep, is because I think I'll just do a few more emails before I go to bed. And then that light flickers in your eyes, you know all the theories. Yeah? So, can you turn off your computer at a certain time? What could you do to reduce input this week? Try and think of 3 things you could do and just do 2 of them. Yeah? And again, try and make it realistic. You know, don't say, that's it, I'm not going to look at my computer, or I'm not going to look at my phone. It's undoable now. But find ways of reducing input this week. If you don't do that, all you've got is a marketplace trying to get you to try to manipulate your attention. Yeah? That's what you've got. You either have your own life or you've got the life of the marketplace. It's up to you. And no one apart from you is going to help you with it. Yeah? The marketplace is not going to help you turn anything off. It's going to help you buy things and download things and surf on things. Yeah. So this week, see if you can reduce input. Only then will you start to notice the issues of mindfulness. You'll start to notice all kinds of things if you just go a bit more cold turkey on Facebook, on Twitter, on all the things you do, on watching a DVD and having a pot noodle, and all those things. Yeah? So what I'd like you to do now is break it probably into 3s, just with the people near you. So see if you can come up with 2 resolutions and at least 2 ways in which you can reduce input.